Right. I know
But
we have a busy day today, Rabbi.
yes,
So we have Cantonese to sing us in.
all right,
Okay.
Cantonese.
All right. Cantor?
Hello. So somebody shared, I think, a YouTube clip of this setting on the Facebook page the other day. It happens to be one of my favorite settings of these verses by Joey Weisenberg. So I thought that I would share. It just has this. I wish that he had set the whole song, but I don't mind actually. Also, I'm of two minds. On the one hand, I wish he had set the whole song, and at the same time, I don't mind that he started with this fulcrum verse.
Cantonese, before you start, just say a word about who Joey Weissenberg is for folks who don't know who
Sure.
he
So
is.
Joey Weisenberg is a songwriter and prayer leader. He actually was trained in Chazanut and cantorial chanting from cantor Noah Schall, who's one of the giants in the cantorate. And he then he did some music directing at various places, including at the Kane Street Synagogue, where Israel Goldfarb was heavily involved, and then kind of landed at Mechon Hadar, the egalitarian yeshiva in Manhattan, being kind of their director of music and worship for a while. And he is a prolific composer of nigunim in particular, but also writes many other things. And he founded an institute that they're now calling the Rising Song Institute, that's also connected with Mechon Hadar, and kind of raising up other musicians who do similar kinds of fusion of Eastern European Jewish folk idiom with American folk music idioms. A tradition that you could argue goes back to like Karlbach, but also others of that generation in the urban folk revival movement. You can kind of hear a little bit of that kind of blending of sounds, even in this melody. Gam kielech begeit samavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umish'antecha heima yenachamuni shivtecha umish'antecha heima yenachamuni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zorerai nishanta vashemen roshi kosi revaya revaya kosi revaya revaya ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti b'beit Adonai leorech yamim leorech yamim.
Wow, thank you so much for that. And your description of Joey Weissenberg is very important. And if you have not heard of him, everybody should know him. He is really not only in the tradition of Shlomo Karlbach and even I would say Debbie Friedman, but he's as famous right now as Debbie Friedman was in her day. And he is producing the kind of constant stream of synagogue music that is slowly making its way into all different movements of Judaism, and his synagogue concerts are now very hot. And his music is very, very, very. So if you want to know, if you regret you weren't around when Debbie Friedman was writing her stuff and new Debbie Friedman songs were coming out, that's what's happening right now with Joey Weissenberg. His songs are kind of the Cantor Nimi, would you agree? I mean, they're obviously very different, but from that tradition of contemporary compositions using Hebrew and English and things from the liturgy and Psalms that are very, go ahead, Cantor Nimi.
Well, I was going to say, and synthesizing Jewish, like what we might call traditional Jewish sounds with American musical idioms, that and finding a real blend between the two. By the way, his Rising Song Institute, also there's a musician who put out an album through that recently that I think might be familiar at CBST, Yosef Goldman.
Yes, I would, yes.
Yosef Goldman put out an album through the institution, the Rising Song Institute that Joey Weisenberg started. The album is
fantastic.
Fantastic.
I have the CD right here. And in fact, if you go to the YouTube version of Joey singing this setting, and there are a couple of YouTubes of him singing it, Yosef Goldman, our former intern, is one of the ensemble singers who are doing the harmonies and the, I'm not sure what you call them, but he is, so as the camera pans, you'll see Yosef Goldman doing, being part of the ensemble who do the backups. And if you go to, it's really fun to actually go to YouTube and put in Joey Weissenberg and just, you know, spend some hours really listening to his Hadar, what's it called, the Hadar Ensemble or something, or I think it's the Hadar Ensemble. They've done concerts as well as recordings, and they do exactly that, of taking a phrase of a psalm or a whole psalm or a piece of liturgy and doing this contemporary interpretation with a foot in Jewish, traditional Jewish modes and a foot in American contemporary. So he's very, very talented. So really good to look out for him and to be aware of him. Many have asked, why haven't we had him at a concert yet at CBST? You know, it's on a long list of things we'd love to do, but guess what? You know, there's a long list, but there's no reason we haven't. It's just, whatever. It's timing, money, all those things. Anyway, so welcome everybody. So today we're going to do another deep dive into the Hebrew, but the way we're going to do it is we're going to ask people who are at the bet level or above of Hebrew. Tasha is going to invite everybody to join a breakout room, and please only accept an invitation to join a breakout room if you are at a bet level or higher. And then if you're at an Aleph or not even up to Aleph, stay in the main group room, okay? So we're gonna divide up a little bit by Hebrew level. And what we want you to do is, what is bet level? Bet level is comfortable reading words and understanding the most basic, simple words. Like if you could easily read the prayer book Hebrew, for instance. Does that reflect the bet level class? Is that kind of bet level class? So you should be able to read a sentence of prayer book Hebrew that has the vowels. You could read that pretty comfortably. Not necessarily understand every word. So then what we're going to do is those who have, it's going to break up into rooms of 3 or 4. Don't worry if your grammar isn't great, but we want people who could at least read to be together. And what we want you to do is really start, if you have not started working on the color chart, and the idea with studying Hebrew and studying a psalm is you go back over and over and over again until it's so familiar to you. So just do it line by line, and each person take a line and see how far you could go, one person, and then other people can help them. Can you identify the word? Can you identify the shoresh? Can you identify the suffix? Can you identify the prefix? You know, and just work through the Hebrew, not deep meaning, but really try and work through the Hebrew and see how far you can get. Okay? And then we're going to join back together again. So, but again, if you're Aleph or no less Hebrew than Aleph, stay in don't accept the invitation. Are we all clear?
How long will we be in breakout?
What time is it now? We're going to do for 30, so 25 minutes.
Okay, great.
All right, everybody? Everybody game? Okay, so
Everybody gay.
every,
I didn't get an invitation.
if you're in the main room, you stay with me. So we're just gonna wait till all the dividing up happens.
I think everyone accepted the invitation because there's only.
No, they didn't give us invitations. They just put us in groups.
Yeah, they
So
just
I
put-
left the
They
group.
didn't offer invitations. People had to,
Oh,
if I broadcast a message, can I just,
Yeah. Tell people in Olive's level to come back, I think.
okay, let me write this.
I'm going to because I'm minus Olive.
Everybody automatically got put in groups.
Sorry.
Just gonna send a message to everybody.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna send that to everybody. Yeah, it's weird. It did it differently this time. It didn't, you weren't invited to except Tasha, just put us in a room. Maybe Zoom is always changing its protocols, so who knows?
I'm really surprised because when I'm on the other side of it as a teacher, professor, the students always have to actually join, and those who don't are left.
I know, that's how it used to be also, so that's,
should've-
yeah, I don't know if they've changed
I
or,
don't know why.
Tasha, do you know?
But my partner's having trouble getting back in. So is it still open for people to?
Yeah, they should just,
No,
they
I
just
know. Did you actually
leave. It should say where it says leave breakout room.
Yeah, no, she accidentally left the meeting. So other people might have done that. So it might be that Tasha should allow people back into the meeting. I don't know.
You mean that she left the Zoom altogether?
When you click on leave group, sometimes you accidentally click on leave meeting.
Ah, I see. Okay, so we can let people back in if,
I think surely there are other people in our elementary level.
Tosh, can you hear me?
yes.
Can you
People
see
are
if
having trouble leaving the rooms.
I
don't know, they let me leave.
Yeah, they let me leave too.
I'm Olive Hebrew and Olive Computer.
Okay, I think people left the meeting in there, so they're coming back in through the waiting room. Okay. Hello. Yeah, okay, Susan Stein. All right, so people are coming back in.
Yeah, they forced me into another group and then I couldn't get back in and now I got back in. This is the less than Olive's group?
This is the Olive or Less group.
Good.
That's us. You're with me. The Olive or Less is with me. All right, sorry about that. It seems like they've changed. It used to be that they would ask you to accept an invitation to go into a room, and that's how we used to do it, but it doesn't seem to work that way anymore. Okay. It is what it is. We're learning, we've got to keep up with Zoom. They're always changing the process. Okay, so welcome everybody. So for those of you, so up here comes a few more. They're coming back in. All right, sorry about the bumpiness of the process. We thought it would be simpler, but isn't that true? Isn't that true about life?
I don't understand Hebrew. I loved your explanations of the grammar. Actually, because I understand what you're doing at a level where I understand exactly what you're saying, even if I don't know the words.
Right. That's why I think it's valuable for me to do it. I just want folks who can play with it themselves to have some time to play with it.
Yeah, and I don't mind it. I'm intrigued by it. I love it, actually. So for some of us, even if we don't know what we do, it's still really fun.
Good, I'm glad. I'm very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think even by my talking about the language, you can pick up things even if it's not, whichever framework you're in. And a bunch of people have started learning Hebrew. Hi, Susan, how are you today?
I'm great.
No, you're muted.
I'm really good. The concert last night was just so uplifting. It was a wonderful experience, just
Well, I'm so happy to hear that.
very special.
And see what I love? We have very different reactions. Michael, I love your reaction, and I love that you're honest. No one concert and no one piece of music and no one anything is gonna sit right with every single person, because guess what? We're all complicated human beings and we all need different kinds of things. And different things comfort us and different things inspire us. And Hebrew, Donna wants to be back in room 8. I don't know how to do that. Tasha, can you do that? Okay, Tasha's in charge of this is all a little more complicated than we like. Anyway, so, all right, so I'm doing our little group of Psalm 23. So up here, more people are coming. It seems like people were actually bumped out of the entire Zoom. Is that right?
Yeah, I told them if they left the meeting, I would let them back in. I've been
Okay,
visiting
Good.
rooms.
okay. It's gonna be weird when we're in a building, right? I mean, but don't worry, if you're not local, we're actually investigating putting technology into the different classrooms. So even when teaching is taking place, people who can't be physically there will be able to participate. Right now, we have one TV, that we have to, roll around to all the different rooms, and it's not very big and it doesn't work very well. So we're actually investing in some technology, so we'll be able to bridge those who are physically present and those who are joining us via whatever technology it is. So it'll all be all different kind of learning curves for all of us. Okay, so let's look at the Psalm itself. Do you all should have a translation in front of you? Okay, do you each have either a book or one of the, let's take one of them, because what I'm going to do is, whatever you have in front of you, I'm going to ask you to read from whichever version you have for the first verse, okay? Deborah Rosen, would you read whatever first verse you have?
Sure, I'm in Alter.
Alter, okay.
David Shigeon, which he sang to the Lord regarding.
Could you speak a little louder? It's hard to hear you. It's just very.
David Shigeon, he sang to the Lord regarding Cush the Benjaminite.
Hold on, I don't think you're on 23. Is that Psalm 23?
Sorry.
That's okay.
We're listening to the old ones. We're catching up on the old ones that we missed.
Excellent, good.
That was Psalm 7. I'm so sorry.
That's quite all right. I love them all.
I'm so sorry.
Harold keeps saying to me, why don't you just pick your favorites to teach? I love them all. They're all my favorites.
I got confused. Is this the one we listened to with you in person or on tape?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay, David's Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
Does anybody have a different translation you could read? Judy, Frank?
I have Levi, Psalm 23.
Okay, you read that, verse 1.
Adonai, my shepherd, I lack for nothing. In meadows thick with
Okay,
grass.
that's it, just Psalm 1, just verse 1. So it's I lack for nothing, that is the verse 1. Anybody have a different translation?
Could pull down one. Oops.
Yeah, Susan Stein.
I have Bernstein.
Okay, read that.
Leaning on you, I have no fear. I tread lightly through valleys and shadows.
Okay, that's it. Just the first verse is leaning on you, I have no fear.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so if you could type in that first line into the chat. Okay, everybody whatever line you just read, type it into the chat. Okay, under everyone. All right, does someone have something different? Sherry?
Mine is from Barbara Munda.
Uh-huh.
My mother is my shepherd, and I lack nothing. She lays me down
Okay,
in
that's
green.
it. Just,
This is her first one though.
okay, but I just want to compare that first part, which is from the first verse.
Okay.
Yeah, so altar, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. That's very close to the, so keep putting those in the chat, okay, just verse 1. So what I've tried to emphasize in our looking at all the translations is that in many ways, they're all reflecting an ambiguity that exists in the Hebrew. And that's the power of interpretive translations. And the ambiguity lets the different writers explore something different, and that's the power of it. That's why, and you hear me say this over and over again, there is no point to say, what does the Hebrew say? I want to say that. The deeper you get in the Hebrew, the more you come close to the ambiguity. So there are two sections of the first verse. Once you leave behind Mizmor LeDavid, a Psalm of David or a David Psalm, which we will for now. The first half of this verse is 2 words in Hebrew, and the second half is 2 words in Hebrew. The first half is Yud He Vav He, some kind of word for the power in the universe. Yud He Vav He, Ro'i, my shepherd. The second half of the verse is Lo Echsar. In the negative, it says, I shall not want, or I shall not lack. So looking at the different ways that you've now put in the chat of all these different verse ones. First of all, isn't it amazing? This is one whole verse. In Hebrew, it's 4 words. So look at how these different translators looked at this first verse. Altar, of course, uses in the small caps, Lord, to indicate Yud He Vav He. So let's look at how all of them refer to the first half of the first verse. The Lord is my shepherd. Altar is seeing this as a statement. But if you see what Levi writes, Adonai, my shepherd, is a reflection of the ambiguity. In some ways, Levi is interpreting it, what some translators do, is to say it's an address to Yud He Vav He, right? Adonai, my shepherd, blah, 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 right? You see the difference? So that's the first thing we see in all the different differences, which is a reflection of the ambiguity in the Hebrew. But as I've said in class, because of the St. James version, which is the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, people skip over the ambiguity because we assume that's the only way to read it. It's not. Levi shows us another one, and Fisher is going to an entirely different direction, although in many ways it's based on Levi, and this exists in traditional Jewish interpretation, that it's actually speaking to Yud He Vav He. And Fisher just takes out the name of God and just says, you, whatever this power in the universe is, you are my shepherd. So that's the first half. It's really fun to see all the different ways. Bernstein, interesting, Orthodox Jewish, but wants to take out, Bernstein's goal is to really get away from highfalutin language. She wants deeply personal, very intimate. Bernstein, whatever, is going for intimacy. And she rejects, highfalutin, very lofty language. She challenges us to break down, to really challenge us if we think the Psalms are for somebody or something out there. She wants to go to a very intimate place. That's, you'll see over and over again, whether or not you like her stuff, you can feel her goal is deep intimacy, deep connection. So she doesn't need Adonai. She finds that clearly a little, not that she doesn't believe in God, for sure she does, but she's trying to get to a very, very intimate, personal, like friend, very right here relationship. So Bernstein, what does she do? Leaning on you. Now, where does she get leaning on you? Isn't it interesting? It's Adonai Ro'i, my shepherd, my caretaker, so she takes shepherd out entirely of this part of the Psalm. Instead, she tries to get to what feeling exists for her in thinking about this friend, shepherd, caretaker. She doesn't want an out there kind of God. She wants like I'm leaning on your shoulder, and that feeling very intimate. So, okay, and then is that Manda, the My Mother is My Shepherd, Simon? So Manda, we see, wants to really feminize everything and wants to reject a fatherly, partly because the fatherly image of God isn't really parental, just because of what the word father means. It's almost, it's very patriarchal. It's very over hierarchical, on top of. So she goes for a very different kind of image of the maternal and says, my mother is my shepherd. What does that do to our reading of it? Okay, that's the first half of the verse. The second half of the verse, lo echsar. Now, in the original Hebrew, it's negative in the sense that it's lo means no, not. So you see Alter, who always tries to go closest to the original Hebrew, but with poetic English. He doesn't sacrifice. He wants to find in the English something that will energize the music. He doesn't just want literal wooden English. He wants it to be musical, like a poem. But I shall not want is closer to the Hebrew because of the lo echsar. But you see how people go off from that. Bernstein, I have no fear. Because to Bernstein, what is want? Not having a want is, it would be not fearing. And then you see Manda, my mother is my shepherd, I lack nothing. So it's actually lo echsar, I don't lack. She's twisting a little bit of what the negative is. It's not a don't lack, it's I lack nothing, which I think is a very creative use of that. And Levy, likewise, I lack for nothing. And then Fisher goes from the entirely negative language construction to what would the opposite of I lack nothing, or I don't miss anything, or I don't lack, I am content. So this is a great example of the stylistic, and I would say not only stylistic, but we say in Hebrew, the hashkafa, the outlook or the orientation of the writers. So let's look at verse 2, the same thing. If everybody could read and then put into the chat a different version of verse 2 that you have.
I have Levy.
Okay, go for it, Michael.
In meadows thick with grass, you lay me down. Across streams serene, you guide me.
Okay, great. So this verse in the original Hebrew has 3 words in the first sentence and 3 words if you consider the hyphenation, or 4 words, not sentence, first half, and then 3 or 4 words in the second half. Okay, Sherry, which are you reading?
I'm continuing with Manda.
Okay, great.
She lays me down in green grass and carries fresh water to me.
Beautiful. Okay, great. Somebody else? And again, write it in the chat so we see it all written out there.
You lead me to rest in the sweet grasses.
Judith, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Okay, but would you write that down? Did somebody do Alter?
Yeah, I did Alter. Alter says, in grass meadows, he makes me lie down. By quiet
Excellent.
waters guides me.
Excellent. Does anybody have Bernstein? Susan Stein, you have Bernstein, right?
I've got so many versions here, I was fumbling. So which one is that, Deb? Is that,
Bernstein?
so cushion my falls? Okay.
Verse 2, verse 2. Oh yeah,
Cushion
you're right,
my
because Bernstein
falls
doesn't have numbers.
softly.
Cushion my falls, yes.
Softly I'll land in verdant fields, in calm water, soothe my soul.
No, just in calm water. That's okay, excellent. So put that in the chat.
Okay.
Any other? I know, I'll help you. Right, you're right. Bernstein doesn't have the numbers. Did we get Fisher in this?
Yeah, I have that. You lead.
Okay, great. All right, so let's look at these now. So let's start with Alter, since Alter is the closest to the Hebrew. Let's find the Alter. Deborah, did you put the Alter down there? Yes. Okay, so Alter. In grass meadows, I'm going to keep looking at the Hebrew so I can keep up with this. So in grass meadows, he makes me lie down, comma. So that's the first phrase. By quiet waters guides me, second phrase. So he's if you look at altar, you're getting very close to the Hebrew. That's how you always know. An altar with that comma and also his formatting shows you what are the two halves of the biblical parallelism. So what you notice from altar is that he maintains the structure of the verse, which is that it starts in green pastures. You've heard me say this a million times, so it might be a little boring, but biblical Hebrew naturally always starts with a verb. When it doesn't start with the verb, there's an emphasis there. And altar maintains that. So you can know as an English reader what is happening in the Hebrew structure. Now in Green Meadows, that sounds very nice to us as an English reader. You know, that's lovely. In Hebrew, it's an emphasis because normally it would say he makes me lie down or lie down makes me in Green Meadows. That would be which sounds weird to, of course, to an English ear. But that's why you have to always look at what so by saying the emphasis here is where it's happening. That's the point I'm trying to get to. The Green Meadows, you're supposed to have this very strong image of a beautiful green verdant meadow. He makes me lie down, we'll talk about. And then the second half, by quiet waters, the same thing is, so the parallelism, if you look at these two phrases, in Green Meadows starts phrase 1, in quiet waters starts phrase 2. So you see, everybody see that? So the sentence has very much that structure and then guides me. All right, Donna, do you have a question?
No, I picked up the Greenberg.
Oh, good. Okay, you want to add that one?
Just because nobody was saying that. So she says, God is my shepherd, there is nothing I lack. You lay me down in lush meadows.
Beautiful. Would you add that into the chat? Because now we're going to look through them. So that was altars.
It makes me.
Manda. Now notice what Manda does is switch that structure. So if the original Hebrew, and again, this isn't a value judgment. I'm just noticing things. I'm not saying one is good or bad. Okay, but you see what Manda does. If what I told you reflects the Hebrew, in green pastures is the beginning. She switches it down where the emphasis, who's laying me down, so to speak. She lays me down, and when you read that, you see Manda's emphasis on the gender, on the feminine, and carries fresh water to me. That's quite beautiful. There's a very active, an active nature to that, right? And let's see, Michael Goldstein, you gave us Levy's.
And I made a mistake.
What's that?
Cross stress should be across streams, Serene.
Okay, all right, we got that. Thank you, Michael. So, but in meadows thick with grass, again, Levy is staying close to the Hebrew and beginning with the image of very lushness there. In meadows thick with grass, you lay me down across, what did you say it is?
Streams.
Streams, you guide me.
Stream serene.
Stream serene, you guide me. Beautiful. And this is, you lead me to rest. Is this Bernstein, Judith?
Yes.
So Bernstein, again, very personal. You lead me to rest in the sweet grasses. And whose cushion my falls, softly I'll land? Let me look. Is that Bernstein? Cushion my falls, softly I'll land in verdant fields, in calm waters. And Greenberg, you lay me down in lush meadows. Why does altar say makes me lie down? Because the verb form in Hebrew is the form that we call hifil, which is the causative form. So it is the form where you would cause somebody to do something. And that's where altar, and that's a great question. You see, by looking at that in altar, you can see altar is going back to that causative form of the verb. But as you can see, people leave that behind. And that's where the lead me toward green tranquil was, reviving my soul is the next sentence. Great. Okay, let's look at verse 3, unless there's a question. And I am, hold on. And Fisher and Bernstein are hard to follow because they don't do it the exact sentences. So it is a little harder. So verse 3 in the Hebrew, who has altar? Let's start with altar. Okay, Deborah?
My life he brings back. He leads me on pathways of justice for his name's sake.
Thank you. So put that in the chat because, so my life he brings back. Again, in biblical Hebrew, normally the verb would be in the beginning. So the Hebrew, by starting with nafshi, my life, just a second, we're almost at the end of our, just a second, let me just, Tasha, can you hear me? Let's do 5 more minutes, okay, since it took a time at the beginning. You can give people a 5-minute warning. So by starting with nafshi, the emphasis is on my life as opposed to the verb. Okay, who's next? Sherry, who do you have?
I have Monda.
Okay.
And this is her verse 2. I can rest in her watchfulness while my soul is restored. She leads me along the path to wholeness.
Beautiful.
Rabbi,
All right, I
is
think people are
Nafshi?
coming back, so I think we're going to have to stop this for now.
Yes, it's not letting me add time.
Okay, that's all right. That's okay. That's okay. All right, well,
Rabbi,
thank you.
Nafshi life or is it soul?
So nafshi in modern Hebrew would mean soul, but in biblical Hebrew means life. There was no concept in biblical Hebrew of a separation of the soul from the body. So that's one of the words where you really need to know a biblical hashkafa, outlook, a biblical concept to understand what the psalmist is writing. But it does not just, in biblical Hebrew, that's, we know it means more life force, life. Welcome back, everybody.
It's good to be back. I missed you.
I missed you too, Bubala. All right, so let's have little reports in. How far did you get? What was it like? And then, well, we had our main group. We had a group that met with me. So Saul Zalkin, Harold, will you call on people because it's harder for me to see?
So I don't remember everybody's name. We got to line 4. And the people who read each of the first 3 lines, not including me, did a great job in discussing the words, their meanings, their various meanings. And then we got into a deep discussion of what line 4 might have meant to the poet and means to us.
Beautiful.
And that's where we stopped. I started on line 5 and there wasn't time.
We'll continue this. I want everybody to have gone through the whole thing, those of you who are in the Hebrew level. So we'll continue so people could do 5 and 6, and we'll see where everybody else ended up.
Donna Gray?
No, that was from before.
Okay. Lori Croatman? Was that from before or from now?
Yeah, no. So I was with Jack, Sherry, and Debbie, Linda, and Golda Lee. And we focused on the fourth, the fulcrum verse. And we went through each word and we looked at the word shevet, and it's also the word for tribe, which puts a whole new meaning on that word, because we talk about, you know, the rod that parts the Red Sea, the rod that turns the sea to blood, and then this rod, and then a rod of shevet, and that the community comforts me. It added a layer of
beautiful
of depth, I thought. We all thought.
Barbara?
So our group was myself and Debbie Metrick. It was just the 2 of us. Debbie's in the Olive class, and I've taken an Olive class from a synagogue in Florida. So we did get through the first 2 lines, but what we did was, you know, we attempted to read the Hebrew. We actually read the Hebrew, each of us, and helped each other with it. I have to just say, as a sidebar, we spent time getting to know each other, which I know is equally as important. And every time there was a word, it led to a story. So when we got, all I'm going to say quickly is when we got to the word shepherd, last night when Sam was talking to you after the concert, he said something about Joyce shepherding us. And it really stuck with me. I said, wow, another definition of shepherd. It was great. So anyway, we had a great discussion, and I think we became fast friends. So
terrific. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Jeremy? Jeremy Lawrence?
Yes, hello, hi. I was with Judy, Jeffrey, and I'm sorry, somebody fill me
Lori
in.
Siegel.
Laurie Siegel. And I just want to point out two questions that we have and one point that we made. What is and Yinach Yinach I'm sorry, Yinach Haleni and Yinach Haneni, and what the relationship is between those two words. They both seem to be meaning drive. We also found something about passing inheritance. For Yinach Haneni, at the end of Brown Driver Briggs, there's a nun chet nun word.
Are you talking about verse 4, Yenachamuni?
Didn't get that far. We only were on 3, and it was the Yan Cheni.
Oh, Yan Haney in verse 1.
No, Yan Cheni.
Oh, Yan Cheni, I see. Got it. Yan Cheni, Yenhaleni, and Yachamuni. We've got quite the words. Yes. Okay, good. Keep going, Jeremy. Now I see where you are. Okay.
Okay, well, so those words, well, we got up to, we just kind of, we couldn't find a definitive root for Yinach Cheneni unless it's the same as Yinach Haleni. But we also found in Yinach Cheneni some reference in Brown Driver Briggs to the idea of inheritance. And the one thing, and I think that Yael had mentioned this about the word I'm sorry, my Hebrew is covered with notes. Bimalach, the end of line. Somebody help me.
Well,
it's in the middle of
4, Jeremy, I think.
In the
We
middle
didn't get to 4. We were on 3. I don't know what.
Well, no, the encircling and the entrenchment. Where is that?
It leads me in the path of right. It's 3. Yanke the Maglani Tzedek. There was something you said leading and that.
Well, Magal.
Yes, that's what we have.
Magal is round, and Maglai or Magal Ma'agal is something like circling or entrenchment.
Right.
Rabbi,
Rabbi,
and I thought that added a really interesting idea of to that sentence.
Okay, we'll go. The whole question you have about Yan Cheni is a very interesting one, and I'm going to hold off on that so I can have some time to teach the whole class. But very good. This is exactly what it's about: is struggling with what the actual words mean.
One final thing I just wanted to say, we made note of the fact that in the second line the verbs are all at the end of the phrases as opposed to beginning.
Exactly, and that's very significant for the psalm, and that's wonderful that you noticed that. And we looked at it in my little group. Alter really shows that. If you look at alter always translates that, and whenever the verb is not at the beginning of a phrase or a pasuk, there's an emphasis in whatever word is there. So nafshi yeshovev, the emphasis is on nafshi. Over and over again. This psalm does it a lot, and that's a very important part of the poetry of this psalm. Very, very important.
Rabbi, I'm aware of the time.
Yeah.
Since are we going to be doing this? Can we save?
Yes. We're going to continue tomorrow. We're going to continue tomorrow so that everybody who's in the Hebrew and those will hopefully the breakout process will be a little smoother tomorrow. But we'll figure that out because I want people to continue to make sure you've done all 6 verses like this, collecting questions, trying to go through it word for word. And the group that studied with me today will continue. We'll do the same thing.
Are we going to be random again, or are we with the
I don't think there's a way to not be random unless we do it in advance, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it would be very hard. I think we're random.
The only way to do it is that if we have the lists from today, we could do it in advance to assign.
All depends who's here too. We could start from the bottom and work our way up. And so even with different people, it doesn't matter where you ended today. You could make sure we're doing 6 and then 5. Shall we have the cantor sing us out?
Yes.
Rabbi? All right, another great class. Wow. Wow. All right, Cantor.
Sure. And I think I found a better key for myself with this instead of doing Joey's key. Ga ki elei bege tzamave lo irara ki ata imadi shivtecha umish'antecha heima yenachamuni shivtecha umish'antecha heima yenachamuni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorerai Shanta Vashem Roshi Kosi Revaya Revaya Kosi Revaya Revaya Ach Tov Vachesed Yirdifuni kol yemei chayai Veshavti b'veit Adonai leorech yamim leorech yamim.
Thank you. All right. Rabbi.
And folks, I'm doing a town hall tonight about my trip to Israel and hanging out with Shari and Debbie, among other things that I did, and reflections and some explanations what's going on with the current new government and who it is, et cetera, et cetera. So if you want to join, you have to register in advance. And I think the email went out on Friday. Did everybody get that email?
It is. It's members only, though, right?
No, this one we're opening up because a lot of this is open, but everybody has to register in advance.
I'll send it. I'll send the letter to the site.
Right, and then I think, I'm not sure what time this afternoon the link will be sent out.
Okay.
All right, everybody. If I don't see you tonight, see you tomorrow morning in Psalms. Bye-bye, everybody.